ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips needs to take a strong stance against the Big Ten and SEC to keep the ACC in the national conversation moving forward.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network, and I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for scoops, analysis, news, and everything you need to know about your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts 5 days a week. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's show, I'm going to give you my thoughts. Mitch Wolf has his last 25 years all BC team. I'm going to give you my thoughts on his offense. I have a few little thoughts on maybe a couple of guys I thought should have been on there. What will Bill O'Brien talk about at ACC Media Days when he hits the podium on Thursday? And it is ACC Media Day, and we have to talk about Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, and how he has to take a stand against some of the other power conferences. Now, this week for ACC football fans is the start of college football season. You get ACC Media Days, which is just a taste of talking college football. You get all the ACC schools. They're going to bring their coaches and select players that'll get to talk a little bit about the upcoming season. You have the media there. They're going to do their voting for preseason player of the year and standings and all that good stuff. It's a nice start to things before camp kicks off next week. So all of the other stuff is all background noise compared to what is going to be the key to this year's keynote address by Jim Phillips. Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, for years has had to go to these events and talk about how the ACC still is up there with the Big Ten and SEC. And while there is a gap there, he's doing whatever he can to close that gap. And while we'll probably hear more of that this year, I'm sure he's going to talk about that. I don't think that's the most important part of what's going to be another critical keynote speech from the ACC commissioner. Playoffs should be one of the big things that we're going to hear about. The playoffs right now are at 12 teams, but there's different iterations of changes that are already being bantered about that teams, conferences want. The big Darth Vader of this group is actually not the SEC this time. It's actually the Big Ten, because the Big Ten wants more automatic qualifiers from each conference, mostly from the SEC and Big Ten, that will keep out other conferences like the Big 12 and the ACC, because they want 4 for them automatically, 4 for the SEC automatically, and then 2 for the Big 12 and 2 for the ACC. So the Big Ten's proposal, I hope Jim Phillips really hits on this, because it's really that one right there is much more of the us and them. The SEC, honestly, I think has the best one, and I think they have their own little devious reasons for it, but they really want, the 4 automatic qualifiers. Sorry, Pac-12. And then everything else is automatic is at large bids. Now, the SEC wants that because they're going to try to make it so that every automatic qualifier is from their conference. But I feel like at the heart of it, without their devious miscommunications and whatever, I think that would be the best for the ACC. And it'll be it. And I think the ACC really has latched more onto what the SEC is doing and less on to what the Big Ten is asking for. Because the Big Ten's already said they're going to reject the SEC until they get 9 conference games, but ESPN's not going to allow that because they don't need the extra, they don't want that to happen. It's craziness, right? So this is a chance for the ACC to say to them, we need to be part of this conversation too. Okay. So that is going to be one key component to what Jim Phillips needs to talk about. The other component I think that's going to be really important is this is his first State of the Union address since he's taken over, where it doesn't feel like the conference is in the throes of a collapse, because the ACC basically signed away their grant of rights to keep Clemson and Florida State happy. So I would love to hear what he's doing now that they basically have an end date. What's he going to do to prevent Clemson and Florida State and a few other schools, UNC and others that we've heard about, from just running out the door when that 2030 date hits? So I'm really curious if he talks about, again, the way that they're funding, success initiatives and playoff initiatives and all that good stuff. Will he talk about that more, about, trying to keep the troops unified, and give that again, you need to continue to give that pep talk that this conference is still viable, even if reality is Florida State is already, if they're already talking to people, or Clemson's already talking, we don't know that yet, but that could be the case, right? So it's going to be so critical for him to unveil more things, because it's like you got to keep putting band-aids on the hole in the dike, on the where the water's falling through, because otherwise, if you just let it flow out, this conference can fall apart pretty quickly. But all those little band-aids, are they really going to fix things? Probably not. But I'm sure we're going to hear about two teams making the playoffs. Teams making the playoffs last year. We're going to hear about the new coaches that they have with NFL experience, with Bill Belichick and Frank Reich. We're going to hear all of that good stuff. But I want to hear what's moving. And obviously, like academic graduations, I love hearing all about that. I'm sure all of you do too. But I want to hear more about what is this conference going to do to get the ACC closer to the SEC and Big Ten. And honestly, I'd like to see the Big 12 doing that too. I am not I want one like the conference tribalism is stupid. I hate it. I hate it. College sports should be protected at all costs, and just letting certain haves and have-nots continue to take away from what's going on, it stinks. It really stinks. Okay? Yeah, yes, I laughed when UConn got left out, but from joining the ACC, but they figured things out. I don't want this to become the Big Ten and SEC show. I don't want to see that just become what college football is. It stinks. Okay? So this is a chance again for Jim Phillips to showcase what work he's doing, what this conference is doing. If there's any wiggle room with the ESPN or anything to get more money to these schools, I want to hear about it now. I do. So that's going to be a big thing for him on this week, to talk about all the work that this conference is doing. And, I would love to hear more. Now, in a moment, let's talk more about Boston College's role in all of this. Bill O'Brien will take the stage too, and he will speak, and I'll have my thoughts on what I'd love to hear him talk about in just a moment. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you can also build your wealth. I have been looking to start to save money for my kids' college funds. With Monarch Money, I've been able to track how I'm doing with my savings here. They're able to get it all in one spot. I can go over it with my wife. We get it all in one place, and it's easy to use. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider, and thank you all of you who listened to all 5 episodes last week. We had 5 shows. We're full time again. I haven't taken a break. There's no break time for me. I get days off sometimes, but man, I'm ready to get into the football season. So if you're an everydayer, if you listen to Locked On Boston College 5 days a week, every day, you are our MVP, and I'm really glad that you have made us part of your daily routine. So part of this week is the players and coaches are going to be there. And I got to say, I'm going to be frank with you right now. I find a lot of it boring. It's really boring. Practices haven't started. Everyone thinks they're doing great. Everyone loves the direction their program's going in. Everyone looks like national title contenders. They're ACC dark horses. They're programs developing in the right direction. Whatever, because once the practices start, that's when you get the nittier grittier stuff. When you can talk about Lonergan versus Grayson James, or how things are progressing. But when you have them there, at this point, there's not a lot that can be brought out. But I think there are some things I would love to hear Bill O'Brien talk about. And honestly, I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility that we could hear him talk about it. One, I want to hear clarification and details from him on the 105 roster spot ruling. The House settlement passed about a month ago. It went into effect on July 1st. We all know about the revenue sharing and how all that's going to adjust with NIL and all that good stuff. I honestly will probably get a lot of vague, fluff about the rev sharing stuff, because BC, they're a private school. They're probably not going to share much on that at all. People keep asking me about that. When will Boston College share their rev sharing information? Guess what? Unless they have to, they're not going to, because they're private school. So everything is going to be behind closed doors. They're not going to talk about it, and we'll have to keep guessing. So I don't expect Bill O'Brien to talk about that at all. It's not in his best interest to talk about it. But he has been very vocal about the roster cap at 105, because it impacts walk-ons. Those are the players that are, partial scholarships or no scholarships at all, that are part of their roster, that at practice, their scout teams or third roster, some of them even make it up the 2 deep and earn roster spots. He has made that so clear that has been something that he really thinks is important. And the fact that eventually they're going to take it away. Right now, they're grandfathering those players in. So guys like Luke McLaughlin, Zach Schnorbush, Shane Hannafin, there's a bunch of different guys that would be impacted by this, but luckily they're all going to be protected by that. But he'll probably talk about that, because I know he really feels strongly that that's a ruling that hurts a lot of players. And I agree with him. I think he's right. Like this, having 105 scholarship players is one thing, but you should be able to have, walk-ons too, to support your program and to get that going. I do think, and I hope that people who are going, I am not, because I would be spending, a month of paycheck to go down there. And honestly, as I said, it's not worth it. I hope people who are there talk to him about Grayson James versus Dylan Lonergan. That being said, expect no answer. This is the Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick, no answer kind of response you're going to get. You're going to get I can't wait to see the two of them battle at practice. They're both very impressive players. We've seen a lot out of Dylan Lonergan. We've seen a lot out of Grayson James. But I would guarantee he's not going to give you anything on the Grayson James and Dylan Lonergan fight. I would love to hear him talk a little bit about his transfers too. And I think he will talk about them, because BC has 17 transfers coming in, and there's still a bunch that we have, press and media have not seen yet, because guys like Tommy Matheson and Bumpus, I think it's Michael Bumpus, the defensive tackle, and, Jason Hewlett and the 2 defensive tackles, we haven't seen them yet. And I'd love to hear what his thoughts were, why they went out and got them, what happened there. I think that's going to be really important. And honestly, I think the big the big thing that we'll hear, and it's good to hear from him about this, is where has the program gone in 1 year? Bill O'Brien's had control of this roster in this program for 18 months now. What changes and development has he taken over? Because what we've heard about from him and people who have covered the team is that BC is pumping more money into this program than they've ever done before. We've seen it with, strength and conditioning coach and more staff members that are being paid to be on the roster than we've ever had. Improvements in all sorts of strength and conditioning and nutrition and, analytics, all that good stuff. They've got a whole bunch. It's recruiting. They have all that. I'd love to hear from the guy at the top. What has improved? What has he seen change? And where does it still need to go? I think that's a reasonable question. I'm pretty sure he'll be asked that because that's going to be something we're going to be watching for this year. That's going to be the big theme of this year. We saw BC last year and, good that they didn't get blown out in any games, but they still finished 7-6. We've done a lot of 7-6 football. How does it get better? We brought Bill O'Brien and we're paying a coach that is actually going to hopefully get you to that next level. How is he getting there? And where is he seeing that improvement happen? I think that'll be something good. And you're going to have the players. Of course, the players are going to be there as well. And I said on last week's episode, I was very excited that Dylan Lonergan and Grayson James are not going because it seems like there's a realistic quarterback duel going on here. You do not need the guy that loses to be at the face of your program and handle those questions if we don't even know who that's going to be yet. But we're going to get Bam Crouch. We're going to get Lewis Bond and Logan Taylor and KP Price. Would love to hear from all of those guys. They're new leaders. Like, that's the thing with college football each year is you get guys that step up and lead and then they're gone. Drew Kendall is gone. Ozzie Trapillo is gone. Tommy Castellanos went into last year as one of the leaders. He's gone. Like, you have things that just happen. You now have this new crop of leaders. How are they going to step up into that role? KP Price is a name I continue to crow about as a name I'm really excited to see for this year. Same thing with Davion Crouch. How are they going to be the leader on a new defense that is going to change quite a bit from what they had with Donovan Azaraku in there last year? So you're going to get some, normal questions, and it's going to be a little quiet. But I'm very excited to hear what these guys had to say. And I'm glad they picked some names of guys that we don't hear from a ton. Like Bam Crouch, he wasn't there all spring. How is his injury getting any better? How is Lewis Bond, feeling about his final year where he could be one of the leading receivers in BC history? Logan Taylor, new offensive line without Drew Kendall, without Ozzie Trapillo, without Jack Conley. How is he going to step up to be that leader? And what will that offensive line look like? And who's been stepping up already? We're going to get a chance to hear about all of that. Now, I'll have thoughts throughout the week from ACC Media Day. I'm not going to be there, but I'll have my thoughts about what I hear. I'm going to be there. I'll be listening. I'll be checking it out, and I'll give you my thoughts on all of that. Now, in our final segment, summer content season ends, and it's now 2025, which means the first 25 years of the 21st century is in the books. Who did Mitch Wolf put on his all-century team? I'm going to get into all of that in just a moment. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and if you are looking for a second listen, if this is your first listen of the day, I want to welcome you. If you made Locked On Boston College your first thing you do every morning, whether you're eating breakfast, checking out your Boston College news, or if you're on your way to work and pump this on your car, thank you so much. Again, we're free on YouTube wherever you get your podcasts. If you want a second listen, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He's got previews on a lot of different teams. If you want to get yourself caught up with everything around the NCAA, you should check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, up on Eagle Insider, You guys have heard Mitch Wolf on our show. He is one of the writers on Eagle Insider, and he's been a regular guest on here. And he did his all quarter century team. And this one is just for offense. And I want to clarify this because some people on social media were struggling to understand what this meant. It meant from 2000 to 2025, the last 25 years. And it was just for offense. I can't tell you how many social media comments of where's Luke Kuechly did I get on a post on offense. I mean, he's awesome on, and I'm sure he would have been great on offense, but this was about offense. So the heavy hitters that you expect were on there. Guys like Chris Lindstrom, Zay Flowers, Matt Ryan, Alex Amidon, Thomas Claiborne, guys like Zion Johnson. They're all there, right? The biggest position that people had beef with, and I get their point, was running back. This is the one that got people going the most because he put as a starter AJ Dillon. And you know what? I agree with him. I loved Andre Williams. That was Andre Williams' 2013 season when he became a Heisman finalist. Was one of the greatest moments in BC in the last 25 years. Easy. Because BC was terrible the year before Steve Adazio got in here, and he came in here and did some big things. But AJ Dillon did a lot of that too. He had big games too. And I want to say, I love Andre Williams. Man, he did, again, this is not a knock on him. And I know he floats around and he may listen to the show. AJ Dillon did some of these things against some really good teams. Remember the Louisville game? He outdueled Lamar Jackson after Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. He did it on the road. And in a game where BC had no business winning, he outdueled Lamar Jackson. He did this against some other big teams too. So I get that one. And I'm not going to doubt you. If you think that Andre Williams should deserve it, that was fine. The one name that he left off, because he put down AJ as the starter, Andre as the backup with Andre Callender, and who was the second backup? It was I lost it. Derek Knight. Derek Knight, clearly, he should be on there. But the name that I think everyone got really up in arms about, and listen, I was around there this time too, William Green. He needs to be on there. I love Andre Callender, but William Green was the guy for a while. And he was one of the best running backs BC's ever had. Now, he did some things that made his career a lot less impactful than it could have been. And some of that is, timely nonsense compared to what he would have gotten away with now. But, I think he had like a marijuana suspension or something. Think of that now, right? So I think of him. I think of some of the games he had. He, to me, should be on there. Because if he had a full year, I think he would have, he was right up there. And I'm not going to get into the statistics because I just don't care. But I think that William Green should have been on there. Now, the other name that was on there that I get it, he shouldn't have been on there was Montel Harris. Montel Harris was awesome too. He was a really good running back. But I can get why you left him because Andre Callender was on there when Matt Ryan was there, and he had that big touchdown catch. But Montel, I just couldn't put him on there. Now, looking at some of the other positions, obviously offensive line. If you want to go and check it out, there's a lot of debate going on who should have been on there, who shouldn't have been on there. That is really a fun one to watch. But my last thought about this is when you look at quarterback, it's tough. This is why Bill O'Brien's going to be so big. You have Matt Ryan, and then it's a huge drop off into still not bad, but Brian St. Pierre, and then question mark Phil Dracovic, Chase Reddick. They're really, after those two, there really wasn't much. And so that was the one thought I thought was man, you brought in a new coach to fix this. And this is the reason why, because they're really, other than Matty Ice, There has not been a really good quarterback in BC in 25 years, like one that stood out. You've had some decent quarterbacks. Obviously, Tyler Murphy had his moments. We saw Anthony Brown have some moments. Patrick Tolles had some moments. Tommy Castellanos had some moments. But when it comes down to it, like it's Matt Ryan, Brian St. Pierre, and then so that was the fun part of that. On Monday, Mitch is going to unveil his defense. I can give you a hint. Luke Kuechly did make the team. So that'll be a fun one to watch. That'll be up on Eagle Insider as well. So make sure you have that page bookmarked to see the release of who the names are going to be, because that'll be a fun thing to look at as well. Thank you all for following along. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on I almost just said follow me on MySpace. Follow me on Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Eagle Insider or AJ. You'll find me everywhere. And make sure you check us out on TikTok. I'm going to be using that a lot more during the year to put out like short videos and stuff like that. You see them on our YouTube channel too. But I think the visual media is much more impactful now, and that's where a lot of the younger folks are watching it, and I want to connect with younger fans. So check that out as well. And I will see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.